He was extremely polite, charming, always questioning. He had read probably hundreds of books. I think it was one of the most intellectually equipped artists, impressive from that point of view. Sometimes difficult, but I realized very quickly that I was facing a great artist.
This is an exhibition of sculpture, primarily, by Rob Indiana, who many people will know because of his very famous love images, both in sculpture and in two dimensions, in prints and in paintings. And amazingly, this is the very first major exhibition of Indiana in the UK, and by far the biggest. So in many of these works, we see Indiana responding to the politics of his time, in a sense revealing the dark underbelly of the American dream. He was a kid who went hungry many, many times, and he could see the promise of the United States, but also how that promise has time and again been disrupted. Robert Indiana was born in Indiana in the United States in the Midwest in 1928. He was adopted shortly after birth by a couple who I guess probably did their best, but suffered enormously through the Depression of the 1930s in the United States, as did many, many people. They were kind of itinerants. They moved around a lot, and Indiana often said that by the time he was 17, he'd lived at 21 addresses. And that's one of the reasons he became fixated by numbers, because he spent so much of his childhood in cars, driving around, looking at signs, looking at this idea of the American dream. And also in his case, from the addresses that he stayed at, the numbers of the highways on which he was driven. There's a very strong relationship between some of the sculptures and the works on the walls. For example, we've got a print which is called Black and White Love, and that itself is taken from a painting as a tribute to Martin Luther King Jr., completed after his assassination. And so in a way that painting became a kind of memorial. 20 years later, Indiana returns to that subject, and at the top of the garden here we see a really large Corten sculpture called Love Wall, and that's a making of that painting. I think it's a really magisterial work, and it's overlooking this incredible landscape, and it really is standing there in testament to those who've given up their life for civil rights, for our freedoms. This is the 12-foot high love. It's the very first time it's been seen in the UK. And when we say it's 12 foot high, that also means it's 12 foot wide and it's 6 foot deep. So it has this really, really beautiful, almost architectural quality. The love that he was talking about wasn't this sort of hippy-dippy love. It was a love that he saw being ruined. So in a sense, love is our reminder. It's a touchstone. It's for us to keep returning to keep remembering what it is to be a human on this earth. Indiana is bringing together colour in pairs in these works, in the Polychrome Numbers, which give incredible vibrancy to both the individual colours on each number and to how they work as a pair. Today we're seeing these works under a really beautiful sky and sunshine, but actually even when we took the first number, when we took the number 1 out of the crate, it was raining, it was grey, it was a horrible day, and it completely lit up the space in which we put it. I think it's very easy to look at Indiana and just sort of see a flat image. It's not until you're with these works that you really start to understand the volume of them, the scale of them. So these coloured numbers are 6 foot high, 6 foot wide, and 3 foot deep. And that gives a really particular sense to their proportion, to their volume, how you read them. And they're very, very satisfying. And that's something that you see really throughout all of Indiana's sculpture that are made in metal. I think a lot of people will have seen Indiana sculpture in cities around the world, but here we're seeing it in this 18th century landscape with the views that are offered. They're deliberately sited so that people can go up to them and see them against the valley. So this is a really unique and very, very beautiful context for Indiana. I think for us that's a very, very important element of the work, that people see this cohesive statement by this really exceptional artist who has probably been understood through this one emblematic work in Love. But here they will see that there is so much more.
Bob would have really loved this exhibition, and every room represents an aspect of Bob's oeuvre with its own identity. What can I say? He would have loved it.